see Tyler Croft as a number one?
No. He's like a tight end 2 with a little bit of upside in the red zone. That's how I read him. Yeah, we don't have a tight end 1 on this roster, in my opinion. Even Yeboah, who I like with promise, the expectation is like as an undrafted free agent, I'm just hopeful that he becomes a good tight end 2. Like if Herndon walks after this year and he can step up and be a tight end 2, bada bing, bada boom, that's a win, man. What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome into NYJ today. I got to get James on the call, so let me give 2 seconds real quick. Checky, what? I got 2 of me on here. Let's add Mr. James. What's going on, James? How you doing tonight?
What's going on, guys? Big day.
Big day. Big news.
Damn, you looking sexy. Both of you looking sexy.
How we do? Mike, how you feeling, man? You took a week off last week. What was up with that?
All you bastards thought you got rid of me. Joke's on you. Good to be here. It's good to see everyone. I'm looking forward to all kinds of trolls in the chat. I'm ready for it. I took a break. I'm ready to go.
Refreshed, recharged, ready to roll. There is like crazy amount of topics to talk about tonight. We're going to get to as much of it as we can. I want to give a shout out to everybody that's already in the chat. We've got Johnny Jets in there, Harry W., a member of the channel. Welcome. Eagle Fang, Stephen Engel. We got Jet Fan for Life. Grant Rude, Stephen Engel, I think I already said. My apologies. Ron. And Daniel Roberts, Frankie Flatbush, Braden. It's good to see everybody in there. Ridiculously overwhelming amount of stuff to cover tonight. Consider yourself trolled, Mike. Yeah, we were calling you.
Didn't take long, did it? What are we? We're about a minute in. Perfect.
We were calling you stupid Mike last week. I'll be honest with you. Anyway. Damn, I lost the pool. Mike is back.
Good. Keep it coming, baby.
Yep. So I don't want to waste any time, man. So for everybody that's in the chat, in the chat right now, feel free to go ahead and post stuff. For right now, I'm not going to be reading it too carefully, so don't post any questions at the moment. We're going to go right to the mailbag. After the mailbag, we'll get right into the topics. As you know, the shit went down this week. Shaq Lawson, Chris Herndon, bless on Austin. I mean, there's just a myriad of things that we're going to go over tonight. Not to mention that we have a game in how many days now? 11? A real game. Bullets are
11.
flying in 11 days. That's pretty awesome. So anyway, first mailbag of the night. And I like this question, so I wanted to start with it. First thing he says was, what's your favorite beer on game day? Also, what's your most underrated beer? And the second question I think will hit a little bit more. He says, who's your guy week 1 that needs to have a big game against the Panthers that's not named Zach Wilson? Which I like that question because I feel like we're talking a lot about him. James, who's your guy that's got to have a big game week 1 versus the Panthers? Go for it.
I'm gonna go CJ Mosley. And I think it's going to be CJ Mosley. I think there's an argument for probably a lot of guys, but CJ Mosley is going to have to be the guy that, kind of, I don't want to say contains, but has to handle with CMC, Christian McCaffrey. That's probably going to break through that initial line of scrimmage a few times. And he's going to have to be big, kind of coming out and hoping just to try to contain him. You can't stop the guy. But to hope to contain him, because I do think one of my keys is if McCaffrey starts going off, it's going to be a very long week 1 for us, I think.
Yep. Mike, who's your guy?
I think it's going to be John Franklin Myers, baby. There's a lot of work that needs to be done now that Carl Lawson's out. Sucks. But glass half full, glass half empty. I'm looking at it half full. We get to put some of these new talents on the field and see what they can do. My runner-up would be a cop-out. Would be the entire running back committee. I think they really need to step up for the Carolina game. But
I didn't
there's
ask.
some big.
I didn't ask for 2 answers though, so that's where you already messed up, buddy. Just kidding.
You know what? My connection's dipping out. I might just have to dip out of here.
Your 2 answers are really good. Running back group, very important, and Jonathan Franklin-Myers, and really any defensive lineman, I think I would agree with. We will talk about beer. Mike, this is your topic, buddy. What's your go-to? Like, if you can pick a brew,
question ever.
If you could pick a brew for the game. Wait a minute. There's a good chat right there.
Thank you, Steven. The only man that sticks up for me.
All right, go. Christ, get moving.
I am, for game day, I really don't think you can beat a Pilsner. So for me, Stella is my go-to right now. I think it's always crispy, always good, doesn't weigh you down. So I'm going with the Stella.
All right. James, you got a beer that you like on game day?
Yeah, I'm a Yingling guy. Sometimes I'll throw in a Blue Moon there, but if it's an intense game, I'm usually going with the Jack Daniels.
Oh,
ooh, he's going
there
dark.
We used to play full cup beer pong with the Yingling lager, and it was a shit show that you probably could only imagine. So
now he's drinking water.
Yep, and Stephen Engel. Yeah, this is my beer of the night right here. Stephen Engel says the best cheap beer on the market is Yingling. It is true. It can be a poisonous thing, but it's also a lot of fun if you're responsible with your alcohol consumption. I would say probably, I mean, I know this is lame, but I like a Miller Lite. I like a Blue Moon. Even a Corona's really, really good, but that's not really a football beer. So
it's summer.
Yeah, but I enjoy it though, man. I like a cold beer. So, all right, we'll move on. That was a great question. Thank you for submitting it. We'll go to the second one, which is, doubt we address inside offensive lineman, cornerback, linebacker, and tight end before week 1. Which of these positions, are you most interested in improving via the waiver wire / free agency / trade before the season opener? So lineman, interior, cornerback, linebacker, and tight end. Which one would you want to address first if you could only pick one? Mike, you're first.
My first answer was going to be tight end, but now that I'm seeing that we cut Bless Austin, I don't know. I think my answer is changing a little bit, but I do still think I don't know. I have high hopes for Tyler Croft, even with your little snippet that you put at the start of the stream. This goes to the theme of the night, which is there's so many things happening. I mean, I would say it's a tie for me between the corners and the tight end. I don't mean to cop out again, but that's kind of how I feel.
Everaldo says Tim Tebow. Damn it, James. What position would you go after? And I know we've already made some moves. Somebody mentioned that we've already addressed the linebacker position. We may have brought somebody in, but that doesn't mean that that's like a fix, if you will. So, James, if you could fill one need, and I'm thinking more of a trade, not necessarily a free agency move, what would you want to fill?
I'd go, if we're talking about trade, my initial answer is interior offensive line. And I know we have Elijah Vera-Tucker there, but obviously he didn't play at all in the preseason. We have really no depth whatsoever after the cuts. And so I think I'd go interior offensive line because of what we've kind of seen in that spot if Elijah Vera-Tucker doesn't play, and God forbid, Greg Van Roten would get hurt. I think I'd go interior offensive line.
Yeah, my short answer is interior offensive lineman is definitely probably the most important for this season because of Zach. But I would really, the reason why I played that tight end clip to start this stream, it's such a glaring weakness. Like, I like,
Yeah.
and I think that maybe it might be misconstrued that I don't like Tyler Croft. I do like Tyler Croft. I actually think he's a decent tight end too. Um, but the rest of it is just, I mean, I'm really, really concerned. Griffin and Brown got re-signed after being cut. Ew. Heebie-jeebies. I'm worried
Can
about.
I let me ask you something. I'm just gonna cut right to the chase. Are either you guys somewhat well, everyone's surprised. Are you disappointed on how we're going into the regular season, not as deep as we thought we would be?
I'll answer that one. I don't think I'm surprised because 2-14 was just this past year, and there was no way we were going to fill every hole. There was just
Well, no. If I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to make sure I put my question in the right frame. 3 weeks ago, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I would have said, wow, not only are we young, but we have pretty good depth in certain positions versus what we have now.
there are some positions that are deep, like wide receiver. I would say is still very deep. Defensive line, I know we lost Carl Lawson. The edge spot's a little thin, but overall the defensive line's still pretty deep. So I think it is what it is. We're not ready to compete. We don't have depth right now. We don't have a lot of, younger guys that were drafted. Like we have a bunch of guys that are undrafted free agents on our team, but we're still building that. What is it in baseball? What do they call it? The feeder system.
Never mind.
Yeah, they have like a feeder system. They're trying to build like the depth on the team by just continuously drafting and signing players. So it's gonna take time. All right, we're gonna go to the next one. And it's about Mims. He says, what will happen with Mims come the regular season? He was running with the 2s and 3s due to food poisoning. He's asking, was he running with the 2s and 3s due to food poisoning? Will he be used to ease in more? And is he looked at as just a depth guy? James, what do you think? Mims, how's he going to be used?
Yeah, so I think we're going to see a little bit of Denzel Mims to maybe start the year, and I think it kind of grows throughout the year. I don't think he'll be used to really ease in Elijah Moore. Quite honestly, I think if Elijah Moore's healthy, he's going to be given kind of the keys to just get on the field and do exactly what he kind of does best in the slot or really wherever he works, because he can work everywhere. But I do think there won't be too much easing in Elijah Moore. I think Elijah Moore is going to be given the ability to go and do what he can do. Whether or not it was due to food poisoning, I don't exactly know. I know it slowed him down in terms of his strength and his weight and things like that. But I do think he'll be used more so on the outside. Corey Davis is going to kind of be Swiss Army knife, I think, more than we expected because of the chemistry with Zach. And we don't really know what this offense is going to entirely look like in terms of pieces, puzzles. And I think Denzel Mims is that question mark of where are we going to use him? I think it's just a great question because we don't really know yet.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. That's good enough for that. We'll just keep going. I don't want to. There's a lot of mailbags, so I don't take too much time here. Mike, you don't get to answer. Sorry, buddy. You've been answering twice.
There we go.
Robert Sala's in the house. Welcome, Coach. Good to see you. We actually have a sound bite from Robert Sala that I'm going to play in a little bit. So we'll hear from you shortly, Coach. Don't leave us. Elijah Moore is the next mailbag, and the guy says, how much are we thinking he is going to feature in this offense? Week 1, coming off of an injury-plagued preseason, assuming he will be eased into it, maybe 50% or less of the snaps at his first pro game after missing all of the preseason. Mike, what do you think? How much will they use it? Go ahead.
I agree with James. I mean, I don't want to restate everything he said. I don't think there would be that much easy. I mean, in week 1, is that where he framed that mailbag question just for the first game? I would say, yeah, I think he'll be. I definitely think the first game will be kind of a smaller or softer start for him. I'm not seeing him getting close to 50% of the snaps. That's just me. I think it'll progress pretty quickly from the first game through midseason. So I agree with James there. I think it really depends. Like, I think there's a lot of question marks, so it's hard to really answer that question. But I don't see him going over 50% of the snaps in the first game, week 1.
Yeah. All right, cool. And same thing, James won't get the answer on that one. Johnny Jets,
Yeah, that's fine.
I did see Marcus May's response on Twitter to Bless being cut. It was like the face palm emoji. Again, I think people are reading a little bit into too much into that. Just try to imagine if your teammate got cut and you didn't respond. I mean, that's kind of how I see it. Like his buddy that he's been with for the last couple of seasons, you know. I think it's just like him trying to be supportive of Bless. I don't think it's anything that we need to be worried about, but I did see it. Let's go to running back depth. With so much depth in our running back room, who's the primary back? As we saw in preseason, Ty Johnson is very explosive and has super strength. Michael Carter is clearly our running back for the future, but I'm guessing LaMichael Pirine can be used as a third down back. What about Coleman? How do you see?
I'm the wrong guy to answer that question.
We know. James, what do you think? What is your overall thoughts on the running back by committee? Because that's pretty obvious what they're going to do, I think.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a pretty heavy dose of Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson to start off the year. And I think we will see Michael Carter a lot because of his versatility. I think he can even be used as kind of that third down back in a sense because of kind of the more creativity we'll see in the offense than prior years. So it's not just a third and short kind of running back. I think he's going to be able to do a lot of different things. So I think it's going to be heavy dose of Tevin Coleman, Ty Johnson, sprinkle in Michael Carter. And then I do think LaMichael Pirine is probably going to be on a little bit of the outside looking in. And that's kind of my guess for that.
I would concur. Anything you disagree with or you think differently, Mike?
No, I think, obviously they made the move to bring Tevin in, so they're gonna want him to take the brunt of the pressure in the early part of the season. I think it's really he's just a warming plate in the diner for the main course, and that would be Michael Carter. So,
all right, fair enough. I still think that Tevin Coleman can be a really good. I think he's the third down back, by the way. In my opinion, I would like to see them use him in that way. I don't know if he ultimately is used that way, but my preference would be to see him in there a lot on third down. Doesn't mean he can't play on first or second down, but I think he could really excel as a third down running back. We know he's a really good, talented receiver, has lined up as a wide receiver in the past. So you could put him in the backfield to start the play, motion him out, and it's going to make the defense a little bit confused pre-snap. You motion Elijah Moore the opposite direction. You can do all kinds of crazy shit with your motion. I want to see all of that stuff starting week 1. So, all right, we'll move on. Thanks for answering. Let's see. We've got a little bit of a Debbie Downer here, so we'll play the music. Do I have my sounds on? Yeah. Question 2. What's your pregame meal? That's not the Debbie Downer part. Would it be a shocker if we are picking in the top 10 again and then make a turnaround next season, possibly the playoffs? We'll just stick to that one. The pregame meal, honestly, I'll just grab whatever is about to be thrown out and eat that. So what about top 10? Would it be a shocker if we ended up drafting in the top 10? What's going on, Mike Gee? It's good to see you. Vern as well. Good to see you guys. Mike, what do you think? Would it be shocking?
No, I don't think that's shocking. Again, it goes back to where do we have realistic expectations, especially what's happened within the last week or two. With the draft capital we have roughly 15.5 million salary cap space. We're adding picks all the time, just over the last 24 hours. I think to go into the next offseason draft with more firepower or as much firepower as we did this year, I don't think that's a bad thing. So I wouldn't be shocked necessarily given the injuries we have, and we don't know how the rest of the season is going to unfold. But I also wouldn't be disappointed. I thought this offseason was one of the most exciting that I've seen in quite a long time for the Jets. So I wouldn't be shocked, and I also wouldn't be disappointed, I guess.
Okay. James, would you be shocked by a top 10 pick?
No, I wouldn't be shocked because I guess if you think about it record-wise, what the Cowboys, Giants, Redskins, they had 10, 11, and 12 at 6 and 10 last year. So if you put the Jets at like 6 and 11, around that, I think we probably end up in that top 10. So I don't think it would be a shocker at all.
Yeah, I will be doing my my official final season prediction win-loss this weekend. It'll come out, and I don't have the number in my head right now because I'm going to go one game at a time and go through it. But it's gonna be in that range. I'll just be perfectly honest with you. It's gonna be around 7 wins for this season. That's my expectation. I was kind of stuck between 6 and 8 wins all year. I think that's kind of where we're gonna end up, 7 wins. So we'll see. Mike Robert Sala is disappointed in you, so that's not a big deal because you disappoint everybody. So
Yeah. My name's Mike. It's nice to meet you all.
Joseph Cavado says, "What do we do for our tight end situation? Who's out there besides Ertz?" We'll do this question and then we'll get to our next mailbag. So the kid that got cut from Buffalo, and his name is eluding me.
Jacob Hollister.
Yeah, so I'm not hyping him up. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a tight one, but he is young. And I think that, the numbers that he has produced in the last 2 seasons, it's something. And so for me personally, I would go that way. I would go towards that kind of player. It doesn't look like they might not sign him. I don't know. I have no idea, but I would like that. So that's my answer to you, buddy. All right. We're going to go to our two more. No, we only got one more. I apologize. This is the last mailbag. We've done this before, but I don't know if we've ever heard James on this one, so maybe we'll let you talk about it, James. Tell us about why and how you became a Jets fan. Also, what are your opinions about the cuts that have also, or I'm sorry, the cuts that have taken place, and who else are you predicting to be let go? I don't know if we can give a good answer for that because they made even more cuts after making the initial 53-man roster. So we'll stick with that first one. James, what do you think? Or not, what do you think? How did you become a Jets fan? Oh my God, Joe Douglas is here. Jesus.
Oh my God, we got the whole gang in here, huh? Coming off their press conferences.
Yeah.
So I became a Jet fan because I did not have a choice. My dad is as big of a Jet fan as I am, maybe even more. And I remember being a kid and, I have my first Jet game. I was, yay high, probably up to my dad's knees in my Wayne Chrebet jersey. They were playing the Dolphins. And then kind of ever since that moment when I saw what was the Meadowlands at that point in time, that kind of just hooked me to football altogether. And if I would have picked another team, I would have had to have found a new place to live. And so that's kind of how the whole Jets fandom / football fandom, I guess, kind of started, all with my dad.
Yep, that's how it works. That's the thing. Guys. All right, very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Mike and I will withhold this time. We've done it a couple of times, so we'll move along. Hader Ali. By the way, I got to get to the chat again. There's a million more people in here. We got Daniel Roberts poking in. We've got, that's his name. Where'd he go? Mike Gee, Hader Ali. We got Joe Douglas, obviously. He says he's got a massive surprise for everyone before week 1. Can't wait to find out what that is. Hopefully it's something in the works, or in the, the stratosphere of, making our team better. We will go ahead and we will go to the first topic of the night. And again, now I can start to be a little bit more cognizant of the chat. So Chris Herndon was traded, y'all, and it's not breaking news because it happened yesterday. The New York Jets sent a 6th round pick and tight end Chris Herndon and got a 4th round pick back for him. The Jets used a 4th round pick on Herndon when they drafted him. What was it, 3 years ago? 4 years ago?
Yeah, same draft as Darnold, I think, yeah.
Yep. So pretty good trade, I would say. I think a lot of people were kind of like hoping for like a 5th or a 6th, like something in that stratosphere. So the fact that he was able to package Herndon with a late round pick to get that, I was very, very happy. Mike, you can go first. What do you think, man?
Oh, I was very happy to see that. Get that piece of trash off the team. I'm sorry.
You're gonna have his parents come at you. You got to be careful.
I my apologies. I am exaggerating a bit for any Herndon fans out there, but it just wasn't working for him. It wasn't working for us. The team's in a position where it needs to make a move. I think the position. I think the opportunity is great for him, but also I love the fact that we were able to pull in a decent draft pick for next offseason. We just added to our collection of draft picks that we have for next year. I couldn't be more happy. And again, I think it's a good situation for him as much as it is for us. I'm okay going into the season with Tyler Croft. I actually liked what I saw. I know it's not the consistency and perhaps even his awareness isn't where maybe it needs to be for Zach, for him to be a big player or contributor. But to take some of the targets off of the other weapons and to get a couple of looks in there versus, unfortunately, Herndon wasn't either being put in a position to do that or perhaps wasn't able to do that for reasons we might not know. I think it's good for all parties, so I was very content with that.
And people are agreeing with you. They want the vicious, brutal take of Herndon as Garbaggio. So, James, what was your overall thoughts on that trade?
Yeah, listen, it just didn't work out, right? Kind of best thing for him, get a fresh start. For us, still get some draft capital. I just couldn't believe we got the 4th round pick. I mean, even if he was, even a little bit better than we saw him, I think that's still even really good value at that point in time. I mean, when I saw, it said draft pick compensation, it wasn't initially released. I was like, I thought it was going to be a conditional 6th or 7th. Like potentially we may not even get anything based on whatever condition it might be or however it would work. And so when I saw a 4th round pick, I mean, I don't know what kind of voodoo magic here Joe Douglas does when he picks up the phone, but it's crazy what this guy can get back in a trade because I just don't think Chris Herndon's value was that, but he, Joe Douglas found a way to make it work.
Yeah. And I think I have been easy on Herndon, I guess, if you will. I was looking forward to watching him play a little bit this year. Don't get me wrong. I was very happy with the trade because the value was very, very good for us. But I think he could do well for the Vikings. I mean, he's going to probably be their number 1 tight end. Kirk Cousins is the ultimate, stat patter at the end of a blowout game. Not to say he's garbage, but, Anyway, I think that he could have a pretty good season this year, assuming he's got his head where it needs to be. Manny C says, remember the last time I said I was done with Herndon? A lot of people had that take, and I will be honest with you. I was not thinking that would happen. So, in a way, I was wrong, but I guess it's one of those situations where you're happy to be wrong. So, I'm cool with it.
Sorry, if I could jump in quick. Yeah. I don't want to, not to say like in his defense or anything, but it's just crazy how like fast things change, right? Like you look back to his rookie year and we were super excited. We were like, we found our tight end that we've been missing for since Dustin Keller probably. Mm-hmm. And then he got suspended for the first 3 or 4 games for his sophomore year. And that was like a big storyline that summer of like, the Jets are going to be without Chris Herndon for 3 to 4 games. And then, you turn around a year and a half after that, and it's just like, see ya, we want kind of nothing to do with you. But, so there was, it kind of sucks in a way because we saw what he potentially could have been, and it went downhill from there.
Yep. And a good comment here by Johnny Jets. He said JD cutting, this is not related, I do apologize. JD cutting Zuniga and Morgan is a good sign that he can admit when he's made a mistake and he can move on. I think that's definitely fair. I mean, we obviously prefer him to not have a mistake, but I think it's good that he's, cutting the losses quicker rather than kind of like hanging on hoping for something to change. So I'm not going to compliment him too much on that, but I agree that it is good that he didn't dig his heels in and get real stubborn with his guys or whatever. So, all right, cool. That'll be it on Herndon, boy. Hasta la vista. Good luck in Minnesota. And the next one, the next big one, is the Shaq Lawson trade. So Shaq was traded straight up for a 6th-round pick. The Jets sent to the Houston Texans. And they're getting a guy who has, I believe, 20 career sacks. The most he's ever had in a season is 6.5. The lowest is 2. And then all the other seasons were 4. I had said at the time that it wasn't a replacement for Carl Lawson, that it was more of a replacement for Vinny Curry because he's more of like a rotational guy. Not necessarily going to really push into that double-digit sack stratosphere really at any point in his career, I don't think, because he hasn't hit that yet. I'll let Mike go first. What were your thoughts on that trade? Did you like it? Do you think it helps the pass rush a little bit? What do you think?
I was lukewarm. I was room temperature on it, to be honest with you. I think it was there. You know, obviously there's probably some anxiety in the front office about depth, that we have the right depth going into the regular season. It was there. You know, I'm sure Robert had conversations with Shaq. I'm sure Joe Douglas had conversations with Shaq. They can evaluate that talent. Probably James and you can evaluate that talent more than I know of Shaq Lawson probably at this point in time. So I think it was a smart move. It's a chess move. You know, if anyone plays chess, you know, some of the opening moves aren't razzle dazzle. Some of them you sacrifice, or you do moves just for protection and for more the long game. And I think that's what this was. So I wasn't opposed to it. I wasn't shocked by it. But I don't know. I would just say, based on what I know of Shaq Lawson, which is not a lot, I'm not expecting a major contribution. I see this as more of a long game protection type of move. So, yeah.
All right, fair enough. James, any takeaways, thoughts from the trade?
Yeah, so I think my takeaway was zero risk, good reward, I think. So zero risk. I believe the 6th-round pick that we gave up was actually San Francisco's 6th-round pick. Yeah. So essentially, you're playing with house money at that point. It's not even your pick. I know Twitter is kind of going wild that we turned Jordan Willis into Shaq Lawson, which again, good, zero risk. You know, if it doesn't work out, I'm pretty sure we can let him go, and there's no guaranteed money over the next year. But he could be a good depth player, a veteran starter that kind of comes in. John, I do think you're right in terms of he's not so much a replacement for Carl Lawson, because they are, in my opinion, two different kind of players. One's a little bit more, explosive coming off the edge, can beat you on the outside, and then Shaq Lawson's a little bit of a beefier defensive lineman that can still get pressure and get a sack, but he's just going to kind of get it in different ways and probably doesn't obviously have the potential of a Carl Lawson. But I think it's a good piece depth-wise that you can add, rotational, get him in there, put him next to a Quinnen Williams and see what can happen. And if it works out, then you have that piece in 2022. He's not just on a 1-year contract. So my takeaway, no risk really. If it doesn't work out, no harm done. But if it does work out, I think it'll be a good reward. I don't think he'll be a superstar, but I think we'll get some good plays out of him.
And just one thing I'll add, because you guys didn't quite hit it, he's only being paid $990,000. The Texans took all money. They ate all of it.
True. But his second year is like $9 million, right?
Correct. I think it's like 8 or something like that. So they'll have options. They could cut him if he's no good. They spend a 6th-round pick on a rental, which wouldn't be great, but it would not be the end of the world.
Right.
And I think the hope would be is that he can at least look like a decent rotational defensive end that would only be 28 years old starting next year. Maybe you could rework the contract. Maybe, hopefully, that would be my hope. That's the best case.
The biggest stat that kept me room temperature, I think, is, so I read something about he I think he only had 2 quarterback pressures with playing close to 50% of defensive snaps. That was the biggest.
That's not possible.
I'm telling you, that's what I read.
I'm going to play it. I got to play it. I need everybody to just sit back and relax.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
If you don't know what that's from, that's Billy Madison, one of the greatest lines ever. You get no points.
DJ drama.
No points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I'm gonna find that article. I'm gonna send it to you, and I want you to put it at the start of the stream for next week because I'm gonna make you look like a giant ASS.
If you send it to me, I will put it up if it's a real thing. Everybody's remembering now. We're all going back memory lane. May God have mercy on your soul. All right. Yep, that's pretty much it on Shaq. Good rotational piece. I think he might even, probably be a starter on the defense, which is kind of crazy. Oh. I think he will. I think Jonathan Franklin-Myers and he will probably start on the edge. And then and that's the other, actually, one more thing I will throw in there. This kind of frees up Bryce Huff to play a more of like a third down role, which I think he's probably better suited for anyway. He can just be freed up to go after the quarterback and not really have to worry too much about defending the run.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, obvious passing situations thrown in.
That's what I think, yeah, and that's the benefit there. All right, cool. We will move along. We're doing great. I was worried at the beginning. We won't get to every topic, but we're going to do just fine. So the next one is going to be the 53-man roster discussion. This one will take a little bit of time, obviously. Chat, I challenge you to point out any takeaways that you have from the cuts that were made, because that's what this discussion's about. It's who didn't make it, who did make it, weak spots, anything that you feel like you want to discuss, just throw it in the chat. I'm going to be reading the chat while these guys are responding. So anyway, I'm sorry?
Nothing.
I have the 53-man roster pulled up, and I'm not going to read it or anything like that. That would be ridiculous. Hopefully you guys came prepared. You got your Cliff Notes ready or whatever. So what do you think? We'll go to James first. We've been going to Mike I'm sorry, Mike. I know. It's okay, buddy. James, takeaways 53 that you had.
Yep. So there weren't too many surprises for me in terms of, I guess, first, like the initial 53-man roster that we had cut-wise. There's a lot of guys that you really just don't even know. You see that the Jets cut the guy and it's kind of just you blow right past it. One of my initial takeaways that I was happy with today, because we rolled into finding out who made the practice squad, who kind of, I guess, we additionally cut or re-signed, who got put on IR. I was pretty happy with who we got to revert back to the practice squad, actually, as like a takeaway in terms of just the whole team. The 53-man roster, to me, it was kind of what we were going to see. To me, it was just expected. But to get Josh Adams to get back to the 53-man, the practice squad. Vincent Smith, I thought was a really good to get back to the practice squad. Obviously, Kenny Yeboah, fans are, I think, split on him, but pretty excited if we can maybe develop him into something. Ronald Blair to get back, kind of a solid staple in San Francisco. For him to get back to the practice squad, I'm going to mess up his name, but Hamilcar, Rashid.
Yeah, I think it's weird. It's so.
Is it? Did I pronounce it right?
It's Hamilcar. There's no R.
Hamilcar.
Doesn't make any sense. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Hamilcar Rashid, to get him back onto the practice squad, I think is good. And the last one, which is a Jets X Factor favorite, is Tenzel Smart, the defensive tackle that played pretty well, but I think just got caught up with the depth of the defensive line in the cuts. So initial takeaway from 53-man roster for me was I thought a lot of things were expected. I think if everybody who made the roster, I thought was going to make the roster. And to me, I was just excited that some of these guys that we had to cut, Maybe it was the Vincent Smith one that was a little on the fence for a lot of people. Braxton Berrios and Jeff Smith wound up making the roster. But to have those guys on the practice squad is important because we don't know what's going to end up happening. Like, guys can get COVID and be out for 2 weeks. Guys can get a little injury, and I think there's a lot of familiar faces on that practice squad that we can end up putting back into the 53-man roster to kind of make some contributions. So I know the cornerback situation is kind of one of the top pieces there. I think we have, out of all seven corners, we have 9 NFL starts, I think is the number. And so it's a concern there, but I agree with the approach. And maybe that'll be a topic or a discussion later, because I know, John, you hit on it on Twitter a little bit as well. But I just like the approach in terms of we have raw young guys playing the cornerback spot, and Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich are going to do what they can to mold those players into what they want to see them become. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't work out, there's a whole lot to do in the 2020 offseason to improve that spot. But maybe you get super lucky and you find that Brandon Echols can play a starting outside corner spot. Michael Carter II and Javelin Guidry, I'm super comfortable with in the slot. Yep. I think it's that second cornerback spot that could end up being picked on if one of those guys don't work out. But I think we have to understand that it wasn't all going to be set this year. 2022 is going to be a big year. So overall thoughts, I thought the 53-man roster turned out to what I kind of expected. Cornerback spot's young, but I like it, and I'm glad with who we were able to revert back to the practice squad.
Nice. Yeah, and talking about the cornerbacks, before I let you go, Mike, the oldest is really probably not going to play a whole lot on defense. He might get a couple of plays. Justin Hardy is 27 years old. Isaiah Dunn, 22. Jason Pinnock, 22. Bryce Hall, 23. Javelin Guidry, 23. Brandon Echols, 23. Michael Carter, 22. They're all 22 and 23 years old, which is remarkable. Remarkable. So there's going to be lumps and bumps in the road. That's just a guarantee. You can book it, sign it. It doesn't matter who pops on defense. Somebody's going to get burnt at some point this season in the young secondary. So anyway, Mike, what were some of your takeaways? I definitely have one that he didn't hit quite yet, so hopefully you don't take it.
I was really kind of bummed when I saw that Vincent Smith got cut. I thought he played really well in the preseason. I wasn't necessarily think that he was going to outbeat Berrios. I mean, given Berrios' versatility, where he plays on multiple sides of the ball, special teams, I know, and of course his role in the offense. It was great to see Vincent Smith. I was just reading the practice squad kind of changes right before the stream started, so it was good to see him. And I think total of 8 offensive players they moved back onto the practice squad. Is that right, James? I think it was like 5 defensive players, and then there was a host of offensive talent that they moved back onto the practice squad. I would say the one that I thought surprised me the most on the defensive side was Jabari. I think I was really surprised given somewhat his silent play for the preseason, and it will be interesting to see what their move is there. I mean, obviously James hits on it, in terms of what Coach Salas and of course Jeff are going to do, what their focus is on the players. But John, did that one surprise you, or James, that one surprise you as much as it did me?
I think they're trying to bring him back to the practice squad. I'm pretty sure I read that, but I don't know. It's not too surprising if you think about the fact that it's now been over a full year, and he's just not been available. He's hurt again right now. I think he's dealing with another injury. So they say it, and it's cliche. Availability is your best ability, and he's just not been available. And when he's been available, he hasn't done a whole lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. Let me get to some chat, and then I'll get to my to my thoughts. So Gumball says, I think Hall becomes a good corner too. But we need that number one. Let's see. Obviously, the weakness at cornerback is a concern, but inside offensive line is also a concern. Let's go ahead and pull that one up. That dandy of a depth problem. Here, let's get to guard. Let's see. So we've got Elijah Vera Tucker. Connor McGovern is the center, interior. Dan Feeney. Ooh, not great. Let's see. Is that it? Holy moly.
Greg Van Rotten.
Yeah, I didn't see his name, but yes, he is the other one. So, yeah, super concerning. The guard spot is bad. Again, not reflection of Elijah Vera Tucker and even Greg Van Roten. I think he could potentially pan out to be pretty okay this year. So, yeah, that's got to be a concern. Frankie's pointing out and giving kudos to Jets X Factor. They have definitely been on the train of this guy's almost certainly going to get cut. I was thinking that he was going to stay on the team. He would start, and then he was just going to ultimately lose the job. But obviously, I was wrong there. He got cut, and he was not given the opportunity. And I think it was Saleh who said it. He said that they were going to keep him, but they didn't want to put him on the bench. And ultimately, they just let him go because they figured he could get an opportunity somewhere else. And I think that's basically just him trying to be nice, but it's probably true, though. They probably would have considered keeping him, but they didn't want to put him in fifth cornerback spot. That's kind of messed up when you're starting 22 and 23-year-old kids ahead of him. So, let's see. Joe Blewett hates Bless. He sure does. And to be fair, he's been hating him for a while. This is not a new thing. Yeah. It dates back to, I think, even his second year in the league. Jeff Smith over Vincent Smith was the only shocker. I will throw out there that did surprise me as well. I think they like Jeff Smith in similar role to Elijah Moore a little bit. The guy who can do a little bit of everything on offense. You saw it in the Eagles preseason game. They gave him, I think it was like 2 or 3 carries on, those jet sweeps, those end arounds that I've been talking about, those motions. So it's good to see that we don't just have, one guy that is really, really good at it. It looks like Jeff Smith can excel at that as well. I was shocked by the fact they kept 7 wide receivers. People said that it could happen, and I didn't say that it couldn't. Just a little shocked. It's a lot of wide receivers. Plus, they have Vincent Smith on the practice squad, so pretty surprising.
Was I the only one that was surprised that we kept all the running backs? I don't know. Maybe both of you were suggesting that could be a real possibility. I thought one of them was going to get cut for sure. I obviously was between P. Ryan. I was actually just P. Ryan because Ty was so explosive. I mean, I know P. Ryan had a pretty good preseason, I guess you could say. I mean, he was very dynamic, but I was just surprised that they kept the ball.
Yeah, so I think I was making a big stink about keeping Adams over P. Ryan, but I knew that the Jets weren't going to do that. I made that very, very clear. I said that the Jets were going to keep P. Ryan ahead of Adams. I think they really like what they've seen from P. Ryan. I think that's just the short and skinny of it. They just think that he's still got some potential and they want to see it through. I really thought that Adams just showed a little bit more explosiveness. I've talked a little bit about that. Just seemed to have a better first step. And I thought that, for a power back as big as he is, I felt like he could have really done some nice things. There's nothing that says that he can't. Because if he's on the practice squad and one of these running backs goes down, he's definitely going to be the first added. So maybe the story hasn't been written on him quite yet. Let's see. Stephen Engels says we're going to see a lot of zone with the young corners. I think that's pretty fair. We have not done the giveaway Jude Jets. We will do that soon. Don't you worry, buddy. We'll move along here. We got sneakers 2 boots, excuse me. This is going to be a developmental year. We're a young team and we're going to make mistakes. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's an evaluative year. they are going to evaluate all of those young dudes that we were talking about earlier. It's no doubt about it. Vern definitely will give you props. He said, I called that Michael Carter will be a starting cornerback one day, maybe sooner than we expected. You have been riding his train from the beginning when we got him on the team. I think maybe even during the draft process, actually. So let's see. Wonder what Blewett thinks of Pinnock. He's a fave of mine. James, do you have any knowledge of what Blewett is thinking about Pinnock right now?
I don't have any knowledge what he's thinking there, but I'm sure if you head over to his Twitter, he's always posting, threads and really good stuff. So there's something up there. He did do a college film review of each rookie after the draft. Has Pinnock really played that much in the preseason? Am I off base on saying I don't know if he's played that much over the preseason games, but if you're looking to see what he thinks there, I know there's a college film review out there on the website.
He played a lot, I thought, in the last game against the Eagles. Otherwise, not too much, no. Jim Pock, he says, considering the injuries factor, anyone can win the AFC East this year if we stay healthy and a couple of players on the Bills, Fish, or Pats get hurt, we can win the division. Jim Pock, I appreciate the positivity, and there are people who agree with you. I'm not one of them, though. Unfortunately, I don't see that as an opportunity, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be rooting my ass off for it, for the opposite to happen. I want to win the division. I want to do all of those things. I just don't think we're quite there yet. Let's see. Gumball says the next Revis plays for LSU. He's referring to Stingley Jr. A lot of talk about Stingley. Every Jets fan that I hear from, they really, really want Stingley. Let's see. I'm just going to make sure. Vern saying, can't McDermott play some guard? Hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. I think he might be a little too tall to play guard. He's like 6'8", I think. So he might actually, he might actually just be too damn tall. We do need him back, and the sooner the better. Let's see. Trying to make sure I get through all these. Oh, good. Gitmo with a good comment. He says Jeff Smith is the emergency third quarterback on the roster, and that is true. I heard that as well. Good morning, John Rogers. He says, good morning from Australia. Just at work. What's the news from the last couple of hours? You're going to have to read that yourself. I can't recap. Too much stuff. Blesson Austin got cut. Jabari Zuniga got cut. I'm sure you saw the couple of trades that we've made. No worries, though. Good to see you in the chat. Did anybody pick up Adams? Josh Adams is on the practice squad. So he is stuck on our practice squad. Thankfully, I'm really pretty high on him considering, that he is on the practice squad. I like him a lot. I hope he gets an opportunity at some point. I'm not wishing for injury or anything like that, though. All right, we're all caught up on this. What do we say about doing the giveaway? And then because I do have a couple more things I want to talk about with the roster, but we'll do the giveaway. People are pretty excited about it. So let me. Oh, and James is not on the screen. Let me add Mr. James. Let me get. Oh, there's two of me.
Well, that's one too many.
Yeah. Listen, man, I feed off of that. I like that kind of energy. That's what people don't get. I want you to be feisty. All right, let's tuck you in the back, and then we are good to go. All right, so let me get my screen up. Can you guys confirm when I hit the right button that you can see the number generator screen?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay.
I can see it.
So we're basically at 1,200 subscribers, but the thing that people don't realize is if you're not a visible subscriber, which means you probably went into your settings and said, I don't want to be seen on the internet, that kind of thing. So if you're a visible subscriber, you are in the running for this giveaway. I'm not going to wait on it. I'm going to go ahead and hit the generate button right now.
So technically, James and I could win it.
Technically, if you did, I would not give it to you. Anyway, we're going to generate the number right now, and the number is 123. So, wow.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find out who that is. So we're going to switch back, and I'm going to give you two something to talk about, and then I'm going to go to my subscriber list and announce it.
Perfect.
Wow.
All right. Grant Rue with the kind comment. He says 1,200 subs in an off season. Yes, I worked.
Yeah.
We worked hard, man. All of us. So I'm going to give you guys a topic, and then I'm going to leave you to talk about it while I find out who it was. Let's talk about Berrios, because that was one of the mailbags that I skipped. He says, does Berrios make the team? While I am finding out who this person is, the lucky person, talk about your thoughts on Berrios making it over Vincent Smith. I know you mentioned a little bit, Mike. I really was of the mind that I thought that Vincent Smith probably should have been kept on the active roster, but I think the Jets were worried about losing him, so we'll go to you, Mike, first. Talk slowly. Not too slowly, though. I won't be that long.
Again, the latest, for me anyway, the latest Vincent being added to the practice squad does give it kind of a happy ending for all parties, I guess you could say. When I first saw it, James, I was like, Vincent lit it up in the preseason. I thought he really stepped in and really kind of made himself known, really, really told me that he wanted to be on the squad, that he knew it felt like he knew we were part of this building process and that he could grow with the team. Although on paper, when you look at Berrios and what he can do and the upsides to him and his versatility, I did start to think about it. And this was before I knew about him being Vincent going back to the practice squad. I do think it made sense what the Jets, what the coach staff did. Berrios can do a lot, and that any coaching staff, and especially ours, loves a player who can contribute to multiple areas of the team, and Berrios does that. So my gut reaction, and I'll turn over to you, James, I was really surprised. Not to say he was going to be on Berrios, but I do think Vincent deserved to be on the squad based on what I saw, and I'm not a scout or coach or anything like that, but I just like the way he played his heart out. But I do get from a strategy mindset that Berrios just has a higher glass ceiling, probably is probably the best way to put it. So shocked, and then somewhat came around to probably the mindset of what went into that decision. I don't know if that's kind of where you're at on that.
I like the fact that they kept him. I was just a little bit surprised because I thought Vincent was just a little bit better and a little bit more well-rounded. James, what do you think about the Berrios over Vincent Smith? Like, what is your takeaway on that? Because I haven't heard you really talk about it.
Yeah, so I think it was obviously a really tough decision there, but Braxton Berrios, he just offers a lot versatility-wise, and he did have a good year last year. So I think that, not that really factors in too much, but we did see him make some kind of smart plays. I remember kind of going through the film and just kind of picking out certain things that I really liked. When the pocket broke down, he was able to kind of get in his quarterback's vision and make some catches. The one at the Colts game kind of always kind of comes to mind. But probably what it might also come down to is the return ability in special teams. I think he's sure-handed when you're talking about punt returns. You don't have to throw somebody out there like a Jamison Crowder, or, God forbid you have to throw an Elijah Moore out there or something like that. I think he's more reliable in that punt return game. And in turn, you could also, you could turn him into a kick returner to where you're not using someone that's super valuable, but you can use him in those specialty roles each and every week. And then if he has to contribute on the wide receiver side, he shows he can do that. So I do think it wound up coming down to probably the special teams, specifically, not running down as a gunner or covering punts or anything like that, but more so punt return and then kick return, I think are two big factors.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You just make noises tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we do have our big winner here, and I'm happy to announce it. I'm actually kind of relieved because it's somebody that I know on Twitter I talk to, so I'll be able to easily get in touch with this guy. This is the winner. It is Hex Jet.
Wow.
Woo.
Congratulations, Hex Jet.
Jet just won a free signed Wayne Chrebet mini helmet.
And signed by John.
It's not signed by me. Not a true statement. So Hex Jet, I haven't seen him in the chat tonight, but he's been in here before. I will grab him on Twitter and give him the announcement of his prize. Sorry to everybody else. I know there are a lot of people, but I hope you guys enjoy the giveaways. It's something that I appreciate you guys supporting the channel, and that's kind of the idea, is just to give back a little bit to you guys. Jinpox says, what about me? Yeah, Gitmo, I don't think that's true, man. It's just completely randomized. It's just like the guy on Twitter, Brooklyn299. He does all those card giveaways on Twitter for the Jets fans. So he does it pretty much the exact same way, just a random generator, excuse me. Thank you guys for all the support. It means a ton, and look forward to doing something like this again. I mean, I don't see any reason why not. Maybe if the season goes poorly, I'll even have like a pity party giveaway. Something like that. Anyways, congrats to HexJet, and we will look to do this again. Back to the roster. I do want to pull it up one more time because there was one other thing I wanted to mention. So we've got our linebacking crew. We talked a little bit about it earlier. So Jamian Sherwood, Hamza, CJ Blake, those were guys that we all pretty much expected to be kept. And then the late addition to the team is Quinnen Williams, I believe his little brother, or is it his older brother? I think it's older, right? 25-year-old brother?
Yeah, it's his older brother. Yep.
Yeah, Quincy Williams. So he plays linebacker now for the Jets. He's on the active roster, which, if you had asked me, would he make the team? I would have never guessed that. I would have thought maybe the practice squad. Do you know anything about Quincy Williams, James?
I know a little bit. It's not great.
Yeah.
It's not great. So yeah, I mean, in terms of, it was definitely an ad. He's got some hard hitting ability, some speed, but I do know, I believe it was his missed tackle rate was among one of the highest at the linebacker spot for linebackers that played over a certain amount of snaps. So that is not very good. It's not a very good stat. That's something you don't want to be at the top of. But, I don't think he winds up maybe playing a whole lot actually on the defense, maybe some special teams here and there. But, yeah, that's kind of all I know. And maybe he turns a corner with his brother on the team. I don't know, but I wouldn't put too much stock in hoping he becomes something, a waiver wire diamond in the rough or something like that.
Gotcha. All right, cool. That's fair enough. I don't know anything about him. I just knew that he was the brother to Quinnen. So,
yeah.
All right, cool. Let me see one more time. I know we're stuck on this one. I just want to make sure I hit on everything. Oh, okay, so we'll talk about quarterback, and then we will move on, I promise. So quarterback, we talked about Josh Johnson and Mike White, and of course James Morgan. Apparently the Jets did want to put him on the practice squad, and he went like this to the Jets, and he said, I'm going with Sammy to Carolina. And so he is on the practice squad for the Carolina Panthers. And we kept Mike White on the active roster. He is QB2. Josh Johnson is on the practice squad. Basically our emergency QB3. If Mike White were to get hurt at the end of a game or whatever, who knows? Zach Wilson too. So what do you think, Mike? What are your thoughts on the backup QBs? Not necessarily Zach Wilson.
No, I thought I actually thought they played that right. I think Mike White is the go-to there, and I think Josh Johnson on the practice squad, right? They did put him on the practice squad, right? And so I just want to make sure I got that detail right. I think it's great because I thought he played great during the Eagles game. I went back and I watched the coverage twice, and I thought he did a great job moving the ball around the field. So why let a potential role player, not necessarily starter, obviously, but like John, like you said, any given day something can happen, and to have someone on the squad that you can move up at any given time, I think that's what makes me so confident about this go around for this rebuild. Is our front office is right there 5 moves ahead, and I think that's exactly where we want them to be. So I was good with it. I'm good with how that shook out. I would say I thought White was the right play to put on the squad, not the practice squad, but on the starting roster. But yet we get to still keep Josh back there, developing. So I'm good with that.
Yeah, and I think that it's probably really unlikely that Josh Johnson gets snatched up off the practice squad. So it's kind of nice to have somebody that's, reliable and available if in case something really bad does go wrong. James, any thoughts on Mike White making it over Josh Johnson or anything in general with the quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that the Jets really like Mike White. I mean, they didn't make a move all offseason, and they kind of let him, battle for the job for that second spot anyway. And I thought he played well. I think I mentioned it last time. Would I be comfortable if I woke up on a Sunday and he had to start a football game? No, but I think he's he's going through the process of kind of working, and he won the second spot, and I'm pretty good with it. Josh Johnson's on the practice squad. I think if we need to bring him up, another one that just because you're a veteran doesn't make you any more special than somebody else, in my opinion, anyway. Just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you can automatically step in and play better than somebody else. So I think Mike White won the job, but I feel good that Josh Johnson's on the practice squad. I didn't know that James Morgan, I guess, had a choice and he didn't choose us. Is that?
With practice squad, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you're kind of like a free agent, like an undrafted free agent.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Where you go. So I think the Jets said, "Will you come, play for us on our practice squad?" And he said, "Nah, I'm gonna go down south, baby."
Yeah, well, we'll see how long he lasts there. He might get cut, 4:05 after the game because we know what they're going to use him for. We know his purpose there. He's the intel. He's probably going to be in the defensive meeting rooms more than he's going to be in the offensive meeting rooms. But it's his choice, so that's fine. He didn't play very well either, so I mean, I'm kind of fine with wherever. That was my big gripe with that 2020 draft class. I thought it was such an unnecessary pick because we thought, or Joe Douglas thought, we needed a solid backup quarterback. We actually needed a starter, and so it didn't work out. But yeah, I didn't like that pick whatsoever back in 2020.
Gitmo Bob said the Panthers will use him, and then the Patriots will pick him up the next week.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He's just going to pour himself out to the entire. Oh my gosh! All right, yep, that's kind of how I see it. I think the Jets are. I think Joe Douglas is discount shopping for a backup. I think he wants to spend as little on that position because he knows that this is an evaluative year, and if Zach Wilson goes down, really, what's the point? So he's trying to roll some dough forward into 22 when we should be a little bit more competitive. Like I would say by by next season, we should be competitive. We should be in the thick of it. So I think it's smart. I initially had said all off season I wanted a vet, and they did not do what I wanted them to do, and I kind of understand why they did. So
I think it's a good point to bring up for anyone who's like, what about the mentorship that the veteran or a backup quarterback offers a starter, especially a rookie starter? The options that we had between Mike White and Josh Johnson, Josh wasn't going to offer Zach that much more than what he's going to get out of Mike LaFleur anyway. So like that whole, like the mentor that I was arguing for, which is what you're referencing, Josh, you were going to get that out of Josh anyway. So I'd rather have Mike White back there than Josh Johnson, because that kind of big brotherhood. Josh doesn't have that caliber of experience to offer Zach. So I just wanted to close the loop on that because I was arguing for that as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. We'll push through here. We've got Two more topics, so nothing too crazy here. And I want to hear from people in the last one specifically. This one, we're just going to talk a little bit about the depth chart. We don't have to go crazy here, but we can talk a little bit about maybe some players that we are expecting to be lining up and playing a lot of, snaps. Not all of these 53 men even dress on game day. I think it's 46 on the game day roster. Is that right, James? I think.
Yeah, it's something around that number. Yeah.
So not even all of the 53 end up getting, dressed for the game. So I'm mostly wondering, who are some of the guys that you think will play meaningful downs that will be on, that'll be on the field on game day. Joseph Grana, I'll get to your comment before we get going here. You said not adding O-line depth is a huge mistake. It could be. And maybe I believe that maybe Joe Douglas is trying his best to find some offensive linemen. And again, we talked about it on the show. That's one of those positions that it's very, very hard to find quality offensive linemen, especially at this juncture of the season. We're right at the precipice of the beginning of the year. So there's just not dudes out there. There's nobody out there that he can go grab. So if he were going to address the offensive line, he would have to make a trade. And the kinds of trades he wants to make, it's ones that benefit him. Like he's not going to lose a trade. It feels like I don't ever see that happening with Joe Douglas. Maybe, initially he won't lose them. That's what I see personally. He's not going to make a big swing for a veteran offensive lineman just because he doesn't want to do what the Vikings did, giving up too much because they're desperate. The Vikings gave up too much for Chris Herndon. That's fair to say. All right, so let's go to the players here. What do you think about the cornerback starting depth chart? I think that's the one that most people are interested in. Mike, we'll go to you. Who do you see starting? So we'll just basically do cornerback 1, cornerback 2, and maybe the nickel, the third guy. What do you see?
Obviously, you got Bryce Hall back there.
Yep.
I think Brandon Nichols is going to be a big part of whether that squad sinks or swims. He showed a lot of spotlight and signs of excitement. Michael Carter also, I think, is a player in that squad as well. Who's in the other?
Guidry.
It's Guidry. Yeah. So you got Guidry and Bryce. I have as starters. I think that's what I think everyone has on their depth chart. Of course, that could change. I guess a lot of these guys are all battling for the spot. But I would say the ones who I think are going to come into the spotlight would be, I have my eyes on Eccles, Carter. I know Isaiah Dunn just made the squad by the skin of his teeth, if I remember correctly, if I read that right. So I think, but with that comes maybe some passion and fire to contribute to the squad. But yeah, I mean, obviously Bryce, I think is going to be our lead there. Brandon Nichols would be my next guy I keep my eye on at that point.
Okay, cool. Jude Jett says, how did Dunn make the roster? I think that's a fair question, actually. I was a little surprised to see him make it. I'm not suggesting there was another guy that was like night and day, like better than him. It's just a little surprising because he really didn't do much in the preseason. But I've always said it. Practice is a huge part of the evaluation process that these GMs do and these coaches. They're not just looking at what happens on the games. Like we as fans, we basically are reliant on that. But these guys who are in charge, they are looking at the practice just like they do the games. And maybe Dunn's just, he's just still learning, and the games, they're a little bit bright, but he's got potential. So I don't know, man. I think that's the thing with Dunn.
He's injured, right?
No, he hasn't been. Not that I'm aware of, no. James, what do you see? 1, 2, 3. You could even go further if you want.
Yeah, I'll go. Bryce Hall is going to be the one. And for corners, I always make 1 and 2 the outside guys, and then the 3s and the 4s are usually those inside guys. So Bryce Hall is going to start on one outside. I think Brandon Eccles is going to start the other outside. And then for my 3, I actually have Javelin Guidry / Michael Carter the second. I think they're basically going to kind of split reps, but I do think we'll probably see Javelin Guidry first. And Michael Carter he'll get a ton of looks in there because of all these wide receiver sets that you're going to see. So I think those 4 guys are going to get the biggest reps. And then I did put Isaiah Dunn after that 4, and then Pinnock 5. And I mean, it's a good point about Isaiah Dunn. But really, if you think about it, they were going to cut Bless Austin no matter what, right? Based on the way they did it, he was just going to be gone for the younger guys. So really, I think, that last spot is, if it's between Isaiah Dunn and Lamar Jackson, you probably maybe give the nod to Isaiah Dunn because you've seen Lamar Jackson a little bit more in real-time game, and he didn't really ever impress, I guess. To kind of deserve the extra spot. So I think it's more so just giving one younger guy a chance over another younger guy in which you didn't give up any draft. You didn't draft. There's no draft capital involved. They're both undrafted free agents. So I think we have our 4 guys that we're going to see get a whole lot of time, and then we'll sprinkle in the other 2 rookies to kind of top off the 4 really young guys that are in front of them.
Mm-hmm. I don't see it any differently, actually, than what you just said. I think of all of the spots, I mean, we talked a lot about Bryce Hall this offseason, so I'm not looking past him. But I really do like the slot guys of Guidry and Michael Carter the second. I think that's a nice duo there inside. They're obviously very young still, so we got to wait and see. But I like that part of the secondary. And I do also like the fact that Pinnock is going to be almost certainly on the bench. He's an outside cornerback. So if things, if Eccles struggles, which I don't know if he will or not, but if he does, we got another young guy who can come in and try to see if we can get a spark out of him, Like, that's the cool thing is we have so many young guys that they're going to be able to replace one another if there is a lull. And it just makes it super competitive, man. Like, just because Eccles has the job seemingly right now doesn't mean he's got it all year long. He's going to have to keep that job because there are other young dudes that were drafted by these coaches and by this general manager. So I think that's where you see potentially some positive vibes with the secondary, is that there is a competition from all of them. Let's see. Guidry is a boom or bust guy. I think he's been a lot of boom, honestly, like through his time. I feel like he's done quite well with his opportunities. It'll be interesting to see him play a bigger role this year because he certainly hasn't played as many snaps in the past as he's going to this year. Haven't asked yet tonight, but we got like over 50 people in here. Can you guys do me a favor and jet that button up for me? And if you're new, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Mr. Bonesy, he says, Saleh said they may give Guidry a look at outside cornerback. And I saw that comment too. I was shocked by that because he's pretty doggone small. Guidry, not a knock, just, fact.
Yeah.
Guidry, I'm trying to make sure I get this right. 5'9", buck 191. I'm sorry, buck 91. Small dude. Any thoughts on the size, James, on the outside, or is he just blowing smoke?
Yeah. I mean, he 5'9" on the outside is just a tad too small. And I don't want to say too small because I don't want to judge anyone by their size. But when we're talking about the NFL, I mean, these guys are, that are playing wide receivers now. They're built on a lab. They're sent here from another planet. I don't know how they look that way, but 5'9". I in my opinion, he just fits the slot so much better, and his speed is on point with what he's going to see in that slot in terms of change and direction. I think he ran like a 4.42 in the 40 at maybe his pro day. I don't know if he was an NFL Combine guy, but. Yeah, no, I don't think we're going to, just my opinion, I don't think we're going to see very much of Javelin Guidry on the outside.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to blow. Any take on that, Mike? I love the comment from Eddie Hunt, Aaron Glenn-like. Aaron Glenn, I think he was probably like 5'10 or 5'11, but I get the vibe that he's saying, and I love the reference because I loved watching Aaron Glenn. Mike, any takeaway on Guidry potentially being on the outside?
No, I think James hit it, and I feel like I'd just be repeating what he said. That totally makes sense to me, and James's eye on that. I think he's spot on.
Jin Pak, he said, yes, I don't want to win the AFCs like Washington did last year, but hey, it can happen. Anything can happen. It's true.
I wouldn't mind that. I'm sorry. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, I would take a 7-10 AFC East championship. Let the AFC think once. My God. Let's see. Did he even mention Michael Carter when talking about cornerback 2 spot? I think he's blowing smoke. It's Carter's job. I think Carter, I think they like Carter a lot, and I think he's going to play. I don't think he's going to have cornerback 2. But maybe Vern's pointing out, the fact that he didn't even bring his name up when talking about the cornerback 2 spot. That could be very interesting for sure. Yeah. So, yeah, just making sure I'm good on my comments here. We are. All right, good. Let's go to one more depth talk discussion. I want to get to... Let's do wide receiver. I know that we know the top guys and all of that, but there are 7 on the football team. So that's worth mentioning, and then we'll get to our last topic. Braxton Berrios, Keelan Cole, Jamison Crowder, Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, Elijah Moore, and Jeff Smith are all on the active roster. I didn't realize Jeff Smith was 6'1". That's pretty good size for the weight.
Is he? Yeah.
But it says 6'1".
Wow.
Buck 95 too. Pretty good size. I didn't realize he was that big. He doesn't look that big.
No, he doesn't.
What kinds of roles do you see? I mean, we don't have to do like 1 to 5 or 1 to 7, but who are we expecting to see on week 1? Let's just start with that. Let's not even really talk about the whole season. Mike, you can go first. Who are you expecting to start, play a lot week 1?
I mean, obviously the starters who are going to be handling majority of or going to be out there for the majority of the offensive snaps, Corey Davis and Crowder. Those are obviously going to start the season as the main 2. I do think the question mark is out there between Keelan Cole and Denzel Mims. I think Denzel Mims for the start will be kind of on a case-by-case basis. I think Keelan Cole will be more of a presence in the early part of the season. Elijah Moore rotating in there. I'm really looking for your guys' input on where Braxton Berrios and Jeff Smith work into the squad, or if at all in the case of Jeff Smith. But I would just say the ones who are going to be dominating the TV coverage, Corey Davis, Jamison Crowder, the rotation of Elijah Moore, and of course Keelan Cole, until we know what Denzel Mims is going to be doing and where he fits into the play scheme at that point.
Okay, cool. James, any talk on the wide receivers?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I think we're going to get a heavy dose of Corey Davis. I drafted him in my fantasy football league last night, and I plan on trying to draft him on Saturday. But hopefully my friends aren't watching this because they're in that league. But I do plan on Corey Davis seeing a pretty heavy dose of him. Jamison Crowder, I think he's that. I love Jamison Crowder. When I saw he wasn't at practice today, I actually kind of you get like that little hot flash almost of oh crap, that was me. And people are fine with I must be the only one that really loves Jamison Crowder, and I'm fine, dying on that hill if he ends up getting traded or whatever. But Jamison Crowder, I think, is going to be a big part of the offense, and I think without the tight end spot having really a safety blanket, I think that safety blanket will wind up being Jamison Crowder, who will play the slot and run over the middle and kind of run those routes, because usually the tight end's that spot for the rookie quarterback. But I just don't think we have that, established yet. So I think Jamison Crowder is going to play a big role. And then the prayer, right, the hope is that Elijah Moore plays as much as he can. And he's 100% healthy. I think we'll see a lot there. And I think Keelan Cole will get the nod over Denzel Mims week 1. But you'll see a lot sprinkled in. I think who we won't see sprinkled in a lot is just Braxton Berrios. I think we're going to see him on the return team a lot, punt and kick. So.
Okay, cool. So somebody asked, what round did you take him in? You might not remember the round, but I guess range.
I want to say it was somewhere about 6 or maybe seventh round. Yeah.
I mean, I think he's going to probably get 1,000 yards this year. I think that's fair to say. I mean, I feel pretty good about him getting a 1K season right now. So pretty good value. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 for your fantasy squad.
So I have, I know I have Terry McLaurin, Corey Davis, and then I have a whole bunch. It was a keeper league, so I got to keep Deontay Johnson, who I was pretty happy I was able to keep. And yeah, so he'll be like wide receiver 1 or 2. Him and Terry McLaurin will play wide receiver for me.
All right, cool. All right, let's see. So Vervain, hold on one second. Let me get to this. So Jude Jets, he started it out and he said Davis, Cole, Crowder, Moore, Mims, Berrios, Smith. It's pretty good. Thanks for sharing. Vervain says that Elijah Moore is going to get the second most snaps after Corey Davis, in my opinion. I think maybe he's talking about the entire season, not week 1. I'd be surprised if he got that many snaps week 1. But I am very, very, very high on Elijah Moore. I think he's different. He seems to be different. He's built different. So I'm very, very excited. I'm hoping that he gets on the field and makes a big play or two in the week 1 game. We certainly need it. Jude says, I wanted Davis in fantasy and some guy grabbed him 2 picks before mine. That's always a killer.
Yeah, that sucks.
Mims over Crowder. Crowder's going to get traded. So when they initially said that he wasn't practicing, I was like, oh shit, maybe JD's like shelving him because he's got somebody on the phone, you know? And then yeah. I think a lot of people thought that. And then it turns out that he actually has some sort of like injury that's bugging him. I don't remember. I think it was either a groin or a hip or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, you said from the beginning, if they were going to trade him, they would have done that a while ago.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they have 7 on the roster, so I still don't rule it out. I still think that's too many wide receivers, especially when you have Vincent Smith on the practice squad. Like, I just feel like that wide receiver room is pretty deep, man. I'm just going to say it. I feel like we don't need 7. Elijah Moore is going to be so special. Can't wait. Don't sleep on Jeff Smith. He could do some trick plays. That would be nice. I would really like to see some of that starting. I know I'm not expecting it, but I would be nice to see something like that starting in week 1. Let's get rid of the boring offense. Let's start running some crazy ass shit on offense. It doesn't need to be like it doesn't need to be like, wide receivers throwing 5 passes a game, but I would love to see something just a little bit more creative and different. We've seen it in the Super Bowl. People do it in the Super Bowl, so why can't
True.
I just get it going, man? Get this freaking offense moving. I'm sick of it. Being an NFL fantasy player since 2012, I see a breakout players every year. Other studs don't repeat or get hurt. Jets could be a breakout team. Okay, cool. So he's been doing this for a while, he's saying, and he's been observing and hitting on a lot of his picks. He says start Johnson over Corey. I guess maybe it would depend on if you had 2 or 3 spots for wide receiver, though. Because if you have 3, you can definitely put Corey in there.
Yeah, who's my? Well, we can continue, but
Thomas Hewitt, Elijah Moore, slant to the house week 1 against Carolina. Take it to the bank. Any kind of play where he's getting yak, that's gonna be sweet.
All good.
I want to see him dancing. Blunted Vegas, great show as always. Thank you, dude. I appreciate that. Ron, thank you very much. 2 people in a row. Thank you very much, guys. Let's see. Jim Pox saying Crowder could be trade bait. I hope so, dude. We need to get rid of the boring sense that we always like in years past, like the offense is on the field and we're just like, Jesus God, just make it stop.
I know it's going to be such a low bar to clear though, but I think we're going to clear it by a lot. but it's not going to be a very, it's a pretty low bar to clear. Like, I don't know. How many times have we watched Frank Gore run into the ass of the right guard for a yard on like 2nd and 12, and it's just like, all right, it's going to be 3rd and 11 in about 2 seconds.
Oh, man. I'm really, really hopeful for that, because that would be the only thing that could really take a big dump on this season. It's like, okay, like if the defense is going to stink, I can take that bullet. I can handle that one. But if the offense struggles and Zach's struggling, like that's the one that can't.
No.
It'll wreck me, man. Thomas says, I drank so much during the games to cope with the suckage of Sam. Yeah, we all had to deal with that. All right, so we technically will spend much more time on this starting next Wednesday, but we're so close, I can't help it. Week 1, Jets at Carolina, 1 p.m. It's finally here. We're going to do a deep dive on this game on the Wednesday podcast next week, guys. So anything that we talk about now is just icing on the cake, basically. So, Mike, I'm going to let you go first. What are you thinking is our advantage going into that game? What are you thinking is a clear disadvantage going into that game? What are you worried about? Who do you think will win? You can get a little crazy with it. Give me some forecasting here.
I do think we win that game. I still feel confident, even with recent events that unfortunately have plagued some of our talent on the team. I think that we still have the dominant defensive pressure. I do think we can still do what we plan to do or what we aim to do. Or with Carl, now that we don't have Carl, I still think that we will still be a dominant force on the line. I definitely feel good with the linebacker crew compared to what you heard out of me 2 months ago, especially seeing where CJ is. So I'm kind of breaking it down, but I do think that we're going into that game with the defensive power needed to handle that Carolina squad. I think Sam's, it's all no, I mean, I'm kind of projecting here, but I think as fired up as Sam might be to play us, I think he's going to have a hard time back there, especially with Quinn Williams. Hopefully, because right now he's nursing an injury, right? Isn't Quinn Williams?
He's healthy. He's been. I think honestly, his big thing is getting not the
conditioned.
Yes, thank you very much. That's exactly right. His conditioning, because he'd been kind of not playing a lot and not practicing. So I think that's the big factor. It's not the injury. It's more so he needs to be able to not get gassed.
Yeah.
Do you have any other things you want to throw on top of that?
No. So I was talking about defense. I'm not worried about our defense. I'm not saying that we don't give up a play here and there, which is perfect segue into the offensive side of the house. I do think there's pressure on Zach, unfortunately, or fortunately. I don't know. It depends on how you look at that. Sam doesn't need to be Montana in the game. I just think he needs to play the same way he's played the preseason. He just needs to be smart, make good choices, shake the check down. As long as he continues to make smart plays, and even if we go 3 and out, as long as we don't give up big turnovers, I think that offense will find a way to punch it in. I do think, like I said, I think I mentioned at the start of the stream, I think there's pressure on that running back committee to really be a big part of that game. I think they really do need to kind of continue them to contribute, get yards on the field to take the pressure off the passing game. And if they do that, I do think they find a way to punch it in. And then Jonathan Marshall on the defensive side really needs a big game. Just to continue that pressure that was a big part of our game plan on how we were going to attack teams. So I think if those two things happen, then we should have a pretty good outcome. And based on what I see, I think we're heading in that direction.
Okay, so pretty confident. You're making me nervous now. James, I'm not saying you have a bad take. I'm just saying I'm not as confident.
You do a bad take, and that way you even yourself out.
I'll share what I'm thinking. Don't worry. All right, James, I do want to hear from you. What are your thoughts going into this game? We're gonna do more talk next Wednesday before this man gets married. That'll be
yeah.
It's all right. We'll talk you into it. We'll keep you. All right, go ahead.
Cool. No, yeah. I think it's going to be a close game. Like right now, I'm at close game. Right. I'm in somewhere. Like if I had to, I'm not going to say who I think is going to score what in terms of the final score, but I think one team will have 27, one team will have 24. I don't know which one it's going to be, because I do think. While we will get pressure on Sam, because I think that's where our strong point is, even without Carl Lawson, because I do think Carolina's offensive line is one of the weaker offensive lines. I think we'll still kind of feel the presence of Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, and whether they split him out in the slot, and also Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. You have to kind of give your respect there. I think they will have decent days against, what we have is a really young secondary first time. So most of them, it's going to be their first time out there. And so I think we will wind up in that 20s range in terms of giving up points, whether that's 27 or 24. We'll wind up in that range because I don't think they'll go for the 35, 40 points or anything like that. And I do think it's because while we will have the inexperience, I think we're going to see a whole different kind of defense come week one. I think Ulbrich and Saleh, they're going to dial up some things that we just haven't seen in the first 3 preseason games. That's by nature of the whole process. And so I'm really excited to kind of see how they move the chess pieces around, who goes where, who blitzes when, what kind of blitzes they deploy. If we had the personnel, I'd love to just throw the whole cover 0 thing at Sam and just let him look like a deer in the headlights. We don't have the personnel for that. So we just can't run it that way. But I would like to see a lot of, Marcus May kind of dropping down from his safety spot to kind of roam that middle of the field to help the linebackers, because I think that's one of the things Sam struggled with, was seeing guys over the middle of the field and had a tendency to throw it, where nobody really was. And so I think if you give Sam a mix of looks, it's going to be difficult because he's the, first time playing quarterback for Carolina against a team that has a first time, defensive coordinator as the head coach. I'm sure they're looking at some San Francisco stuff, some Falcon stuff, but ultimately you don't know what you're going to get. And I think that's to our advantage with a quarterback like Sam, as talented as he can be at times. Sometimes it just doesn't process up there all that quickly. So I think that'll help us with the defense. And then the offense, I think we're just going to not see as many 3-and-outs, as many short drives. I think we're going to get sustained drives, and I think we'll put the ball in the end zone. And where in years past we might have to settle for a field goal, or, where penalties maybe drew us out of field goal range, I think things will be a little bit cleaner schematically. That will help us, and will help Zach just make easy reads, make quick decisions. Don't put the ball in harm's way unless you feel like you have that chance, or it's a point in the game where you need it. So I'm on the fence in terms of whether or not they'll win or lose, but I do think it is a pretty close matchup, and there's a lot of things favoring Carolina, and then I think there's a lot of things that are favoring us. So it's going to be a pretty fun matchup.
Yeah, I think you said it nicely. It is a much closer matchup. I felt super confident, maybe too confident with Carl Lawson. I just thought that it was gonna be too much, because you pointed it out. Their offensive line is definitely weak, and I just felt like that edge presence with Lawson and Quinnen Williams. We already know the names, but I just thought that was gonna be way too much for them to be able to handle. It could still be too much for them to handle. That's the thing. Their offensive line is atrociously bad. Like, they don't have good players, in most of the spots. Like, we have a better offensive line than the Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
And I like some of their defensive players. I liked J.C. Horn coming out a lot. I like Derek Brown, the guy they drafted in the first round. They also have the defensive end from Notre Dame. I can never remember his name. Gross. What's his name? Gross? Shoot. Well, anyway, Gross is his last name, and he's also very talented. Brian Burns. So they've got some guys on the defensive side. They also have Jeremy Chin, the safety.
Yeah.
So they've got some good players. So it will be tricky on with our offense versus their defense. And I like the fact that you pointed out the fact that our coaching staff, we haven't even seen them do what they're going to do. Saleh and Ulbrich have not pulled out all of the bells and whistles yet. And that's true for every team in the preseason. They're not going to, whip out all of their cool designs and plays. But the difference is that this is a new coaching staff, brand new. And so things will be different. And that's where I'm hoping we have an advantage. Trick Darnold into thinking he sees one thing, and really it's not that. I don't know if our young secondary can pull it off. I'm going to be rooting like hell that they can, because I'm going to be there week 2, and I want that place to be shaking like the ground is rumbling. So, all right, let's get to some comments, and then we will start to wrap it up. Oh, and prediction-wise, I'm going to say maybe 20. No, actually, you know what? I'm going to change that. I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring. I'm going to say 31-27. 31-20. And I won't pick who wins the game yet. 31-27. I think it'll be a little bit more scoring going on. It's week 1. I think it could be a little wild. And I do think that Sam will have some level of success, because I think Vern pointed it out in the comments. I am concerned about McCaffrey getting some one-on-ones versus some of our not young cornerbacks, some of our young linebackers. I think that they'll try to put Mosley on him on a consistent basis, but it's not going to be every down. There's just no way. Because they can motion McCaffrey all over the place, and they will not be able to just move Mosley everywhere. So that's the big look for, is if we're just getting completely gashed by McCaffrey, especially in the passing game, I think that could be the deciding factor in us losing the game. Not so much Sam throwing darts all over the place. So Jim Pock says it's going to be a close one, but the Jets are going to win, he says. Seemed primed to play smart and keep the good vibes going with a win. Kicker splits the uprights 31-30. Wow. Drama, and it's already getting my heart's already beating thinking about it. J Ruck Entertainment Music Media, he says he's a 4-3 guy. He's been in the 3-4 and a linebacker outside. I think he's talking about Shaq Lawson, excuse me. Let's see. Here's my defensive plan. Bring the house. James talked about it. We might not be able to bring the house, but you might have to really throw him off, to get him a little bit uncomfortable, maybe on a couple of plays. I would like to see some zone blitzes. I feel like that would be a good way to confuse him some.
That'd be great.
Burns, and they got the guy from Arizona. I don't know who that would be, but if you told me in the chat, I could probably remember. Yes, Gross Matos. That's right. Exactly. You knew what I was saying. All right, CMC versus the linebackers, more cornerbacks. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for them to get guys open.
Yep.
It'll be up to Sammy boy. He's going to have to be on his game. The Panthers have 0 offensive line. I agree with that, no doubt.
Do you watch any of their Carolina's preseason games? Are they pulling Sam out of the pocket and using his somewhat running ability?
He only played the 3rd game. Did you watch any of it, James?
I watched a little bit of it. He played pretty well. But yeah, it was very basic kind of stuff like we're seeing kind of across all the NFL. But PJ Walker played pretty well for them that 1st or 2nd game too. That was kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hassan Riddick. Yeah. Hassan Riddick.
I didn't remember that they got him. Sam hadn't played much, but then played a lot in that 3rd game. Kind of like the typical 3rd game in the old preseason format, like they played them a lot and then they would sit them. So, All right. So I think that's probably it for the show. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. Before we go, please, if you haven't, jet up that like button. Thanks to everybody who hung out with us and commented. We appreciate all of you staying active, keeping us thinking and talking all about all kinds of stuff. Well, that's the thing. We want to talk about everything that you guys want to talk about. So hope you guys enjoyed. Ooh, we got one more comment. Just got here. Not so sure if you discussed this, but I'm confused why they didn't bring in a young tight end or a fullback. Maybe they will. The fullback one, especially Ben Mason, was available, 5th round pick from the Ravens. Is that right?
Yeah, he got picked up by the Patriots.
Yeah, I saw he got picked up. That would have been a nice little pickup there. I think they like Wesco more than people realize, though. Yes, thank you guys very much. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the week. We will be back on Wednesday. It's going to be just a couple of days before the season. No Sunday stream this weekend because there is no game. And that's it. The rest of the season, it's going to be Wednesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday. So can't wait. The next time we talk, it's going to be all about season predictions, record, and we'll go really deep into that Panthers game. Maybe we could do some film. Although I guess you're getting married, so maybe we don't want to load you up too much.
Get back to work.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go Jets. See you guys next time. Word from the little lady. Peace, guys.
Later, guys. Have a good night.